Before we plunge into the darkness, hit that like button and subscribe, because the algorithm is the only thing working right now, and you need this information before the screen goes black. Imagine the moment the hum stops. You know the sound I'm talking about, the invisible electric vibration of the refrigerator, the distant whine of the HVAC, the faint buzz of the router. It all cuts out at once. The silence that follows isn't peaceful. It is heavy, oppressive, and loud. You check the switch. Nothing. You check the street. Darkness. Most people freeze right here. They enter the wait and see phase, sitting on their couch, burning through battery life on their phones, waiting for a utility company that isn't coming. They believe the grid is a permanent fixture of reality, like the sun or gravity. But you know the truth. The grid is a fragile, high-speed machine that requires constant inputs, and it just stalled. Your home, which was a sanctuary 5 minutes ago, is now a slowly dying organism. It is leaking heat, the water pressure is fading, and the food in your fridge has started a countdown clock to rot. The threat isn't just the lack of power, it is the decay. It is the silent siege of entropy that turns a suburban home into a cold dehydration trap within 72 hours. But you are not going to sit there and wait for rescue. You are going to flip the switch in your head from consumer to producer, from victim to engineer. We are going to lock down your environment and turn your house into a fortress of physics and biology using nothing but what you have in your cupboards right now. We aren't relying on hope. We are relying on friction, gravity, and thermodynamics. The moment that power cuts, you are in a race against gravity, and your first move is what I call the reservoir sprint. Most people wait until they are thirsty to look for water, and by then, the municipal pumps have stopped and the pipes are dry. You need to move immediately to the bathtub. But here is the catch. Your bathtub is filthy, and the glaze can leach chemicals over time. You aren't just filling the tub, you are lining it. Grab a chaotic armful of heavy-duty trash bags, or better yet, a dedicated bathtub liner if you had the foresight to buy one. Line the tub, tape it high on the walls, and open the tap full blast. Fill every pot, every vase, and every Tupperware container. This works because the water towers in your town rely on gravity to create pressure. But once they empty, that pressure drops to zero. You are capturing the last breath of the grid. By banking 80 gallons of water in the first 10 minutes, you have just bought yourself 3 weeks of survival, while your neighbors are staring at a dry faucet, wondering what happened. Once the water is secured, you have to face the unglamorous, lethal reality of the sanitation firewall. This is where civilization actually collapses. It's not in the streets, it's in the bathroom. Without water, pressure, your toilet is no longer a waste disposal unit. It is a stagnant bucket of biohazard inside your living space. If you flush it, you are wasting precious water and risking a clog that will back up sewage into your home. You need to treat the toilet bowl strictly as a receptacle for a bag. Lift the seat, place a heavy-duty contractor bag inside, and lower the seat to hold it in place. Do not use this for liquids. Liquids are heavy and hard to manage. Designate a separate bucket for urine to be dumped outside. For solid waste, after every use, cover it with a scoop of kitty litter, sawdust, or ash from your backyard grill. This is the magic of desiccation. The bacteria that cause cholera and dysentery thrive in moisture. By drying out the waste, you kill the smell and the pathogens. When the bag is full, seal it with duct tape, not a knot, tape, and move it to a designated hazardous waste zone outside. You aren't just taking out the trash, you are preventing the second wave of death that comes from disease. Now that the internal biology is managed, you must address the external signature of your fortress by becoming a gray man structure. When the grid is down for more than 3 days, light becomes a magnet. A single candle flickering in a window can be seen from a mile away in a blackout, signaling to desperate people that you have resources. You need total light discipline. This involves using heavy blankets, cardboard, or actual blackout curtains over every single window. But here is the pro tip that most people miss. You have to check your work from the outside. Step out into the darkness and look at your own house. If you see a sliver of light escaping from the edge of a window frame, that is a breach. Use duct tape to seal the edges of your blackout material against the wall. Inside, use red light filters on your flashlights or keep lights low to the floor. The goal is to make your house look as abandoned, cold, and empty as every other house on the block. Survival is not about looking tough. It is about looking like there is nothing worth stealing. With your visual signature erased, you need to harden the physical shell with the 3-inch anchor rule. Walk over to your front door. It looks solid, right? It's not. Open it and look at the metal strike plate on the door frame. It is likely held in place by half-inch screws that barely bite into the soft, decorative trim. A teenager could kick that door open in 2 tries. The solution costs pennies and takes 2 minutes. Remove those short screws and replace them with 3-inch or 4-inch hardened steel wood screws. When you drive these deep into the frame, you hear the wood groan. That is the sound of the screw biting into the structural stud, the 204 bones of the house, rather than just the trim. You have just mechanically linked your lock to the skeleton of the building. Do this for every exterior door and the hinges too. You aren't building a bank vault, but you are changing the physics of a break-in. You are making your door louder and harder to break than the neighbors. And in a survival scenario, predators look for the path of least resistance. As the days drag on, the heat will leave your home, and the thermal microclimate becomes your life support. Your house is too big to heat without power. Trying to keep the living room warm is a waste of calories and effort. Instead, pick the smallest, most central room in the house, ideally one with few windows. This is your nest. Move mattresses, blankets, and supplies into this one room and hang heavy blankets over the doorways to trap heat. But take it a step further. Set up a camping tent inside that room. It sounds ridiculous, but it is thermodynamics in action. Your body generates about 100 watts of heat constantly. Inside a large room, that heat dissipates via convection currents. Inside a small tent, that heat is trapped in a tiny volume of air, raising the temperature by 10 to 15 degrees using nothing but your own metabolism. You are shrinking your world to a manageable volume. You sleep in the tent, you hang out in the tent. The rest of the house is just storage. The tent is the habitat. While you are huddled in your microclimate, you must manage the olfactory camouflage. Hunger makes people's senses sharper, and the smell of cooking food can travel farther than you think. If you are boiling water or heating up canned stew, you are broadcasting a dinner invitation to the entire neighborhood. If the situation is dire, avoid cooking aromatic foods like bacon, curry, or onions. Stick to foods that require just boiling water to rehydrate or eat your canned goods cold. If you must cook, do it in the basement or a sealed room, and only after dark when the smoke won't be visible, although the smell will still linger. The expert move is the thermos cook. Boil your water rapidly. Pour it into a quality thermos with your rice, oats, or dehydrated meal, and seal it tight. The food cooks inside the vacuum insulation over the next hour with zero escaping smell and zero wasted fuel. You are eating a hot meal while remaining completely invisible to the starving world outside. Eventually, your stored water will run low, and you must shift from hoarding to production using the physics of the solar still. You might be staring at a muddy puddle in the yard or have questionable water sources nearby, but you can't drink them. You need to distill them. Dig a hole in the backyard about 2 feet deep and 3 feet wide. Place a collection pot in the center. Fill the space around the pot with damp soil, green vegetation, or even that questionable water. Cover the hole with a clear plastic sheet. A painter's drop cloth works perfectly. Anchor the edges with dirt to make it airtight, and place a small rock in the center of the plastic, directly over the cup. Now, wait. The sun's UV rays pass through the plastic, heating the soil and water. The water evaporates, leaving the bacteria and contaminants behind, condenses on the underside of the plastic, runs down to the center point created by the rock, and drips pure, distilled water into your cup. It is slow, but it is passive. You can build 5 or 6 of these around your yard. You are harvesting the sun to purify the earth, turning the environment that wants to kill you into a resource that sustains you. As the silence stretches into day 6 and 7, the psychological weight of the unknown becomes the heaviest burden. You need an analog intelligence network. Your smartphone is a black mirror. The cell towers are dead. You need an AM/FM radio, preferably one with a hand crank or solar panel. But don't just turn it on and leave it running. That wastes batteries and creates noise discipline issues. Use earbuds, scan the frequencies at the top of every hour for 5 minutes. You're looking for emergency broadcasts, but also for the absence of them. Intelligence is not just what you hear, it's what you don't hear. If the local rock station is gone, the grid is down locally. If the emergency broadcast system is silent, the government is overwhelmed. Write down what you hear. Creating a logbook of information gives you a sense of time and progression, fighting the blur of days. You aren't just a survivor, you are an intelligence officer in your own home, making decisions based on data, not panic. Finally, you must establish the perimeter of noise. You can't stay awake 24 hours a day, and the silence of a grid down world makes every creak of the house sound like an intruder. You need an early warning system that doesn't require electricity. This is where your recycling bin becomes a tactical asset. Take empty tin cans, put a few pebbles or dry beans inside them, and string them up across your entry points, the gates, the bottom of the stairs, the hallway leading to your supplies. Use fishing line or dark thread at ankle height. This is primitive, yes, but effective. If someone breaches your gray man defense and gets past your hardened doors, they will trip the line. The clatter of cans is distinct, artificial, and startling. It buys you those critical 3 seconds to wake up, orient yourself, and grab your defensive tool of choice. It changes the dynamic from an ambush to a confrontation on your terms. By the 7th day, the world outside has changed. The panic has set in for the unprepared. The grocery stores are empty shells, and the desperation is palpable in the streets. But inside your home, the atmosphere is different. You're tired, you're likely dirty, and you're eating cold beans, but you are in control. You haven't just survived, you have adapted. The fear that paralyzed you on day 1 has been replaced by a grim, mechanical routine. You check the perimeter, you rotate the solar stills, you measure the water rations, you listen to the radio. You realize that the house wasn't keeping you alive. You were keeping the house alive. The grid was a luxury, a convenience that masked the harsh laws of nature. But when it failed, you didn't fail with it. You have stopped looking at the light switch with hope and started looking at it with memory. You understand now that safety isn't a product you buy, it's a process you execute. You are no longer defined by your job title or your bank account, but by your ability to secure 3 liters of water and 2,000 calories a day while invisible to the chaos. You have become the master of your domain, not because the lights came back on, but because you learned how to see in the dark. So, look around your room right now. Look at the vents, the windows, the faucet. Are they tools or are they liabilities? Tell me in the comments, what is the one piece of gear you have right now that you trust with your life? Drop a comment, hit that like button so this intel reaches more survivors, and stay sharp. The lights could go out tonight,